Hello, everyone. My name is Emily with Rising Stars Football Academy, and welcome back to another installment of Hashtag Feature Friday, a segment dedicated to featuring different student athletes and coaches and their experiences with our camps and combines. Now, today we are joined by Shay. Coach Shay has been the head coach at Red Lion High School since 2013. Prior to his time at Red Lion, he was the defensive coordinator and linebackers coach at Bishop McDevitt High School and was part of a program that won 3 straight AAA District 3 championships and finished as a state runner-up twice. He played his final 3 seasons of collegiate football at Ursinus College, where he played in an Eastern College Athletic Conference bowl game during his senior year. We appreciate him taking the time to speak with us today, so thanks for joining us, Jesse. How's it going?
Doing well. Happy to be here, Emily.
Well, I'd like to dive right into your coaching career and actually how you got involved with coaching. So, was this something that you've always wanted to do, or did you kind of fall into this kind of career?
I think like a lot of people, once I realized that I wasn't going to go to the NFL, I knew that I wanted to stay involved in the sport that had given so much to me. And I thought that I could maybe give something back to the game by coaching. I decided I wanted to be a teacher early on, and it was kind of a natural fit.
And I know you've played for and coached alongside some really great mentors, but who do you credit your love of coaching? Are there any of those mentors that helped you along the way that really kind of showed you maybe different aspects of the game that you didn't know going into it?
There are two that kind of pop out. The first was my boss at Bishop McDevitt, Jeff Wechter, who was actually my coach in high school at Lebanon Catholic. Lebanon Catholic was Coach Wechter's first job. Just seeing him as a player and then seeing the different side as being one of his assistant coaches, that really molded who I am. Also, my first boss coming out of college, I got a job at Northern Lebanon and was their defensive coordinator for a couple years. Great head coach by the name of Jack Beidler. Jack was just one of those guys that he was a grinder. The amount of time that he put in, the care he showed for a program that he'll be the first to tell you, great kids, but wasn't terribly successful. But it was inspiring as a young coach to see that someone who truly loved this profession would put that amount of time and dedication when he wasn't getting, the district championships and 9, 10 win seasons every year. That really instilled in me that it's not about the outcome in terms of wins and losses.
And like I said, you are a head coach and have been one since 2013, but you didn't necessarily start as a head coach, right? So can you talk a little bit about the transition from being a position specific coach or an assistant coach to being a head coach? Like, what are the differences there?
It's one of those things that when you hear people say you don't really know what you don't know, that's what I kind of equated going from a position coach and even a coordinator to going to be a head coach. When I was a linebacker coach, I could spend all of my time on coaching 3 different positions. Okay, maybe 8 guys, but 3 different positions. And even when I became a coordinator, I could spend all of my time just worried about one side of the ball. Becoming a head coach, it's not even necessarily about looking at the X's and O's. If you have good assistant coaches, they can do. What is kind of lost to people until you become a head coach is all of the running of the program, whether it's the things like dealing with academics for the entire team, whether they're a senior starter or a sophomore JV player, you have to worry about all of that. Whether it's dealing with parents, booster clubs, administration, PIAA, District 3, all of those things that you never realize. I never realized that my head coach was dealing with. When you're the one in charge of the program, all of that stuff now becomes your responsibility.
And coming from, such a successful program at Bishop, what were the challenges that you had to face as you had to start rebuilding and essentially laying the foundation for another program to be just as successful?
One of the things that you learn is you define success differently. At a school like Bishop McDevitt, we were blessed to have multiple Division I players really in every class. Well, success was district titles. Success was state titles. When you come to a school like Red Lion, we have great kids, but we just finished up my 8th season. We've had one player go Division I. We've had some great players, but being in the world you're in, it's a very different type of athlete that gets the chance to play Division I football. So success is defined differently. Success for us is to be the best we can be on the field year after year after year. Success for us is to make sure that we are making a positive impact on our school community, on our outside larger community. Really, the biggest thing for success for me is that we are helping to grow young men who are going to be fantastic husbands and fathers and productive members of society. So that's success for us. How do I do that? I take the lessons that I learned at Bishop McDevitt. I take the lessons that I learned under Jack Beidler at Northern Lebanon, and we try to apply them as they fit us. Okay, you can't fit a square peg into a round hole. So you take what you've learned and you adapt it.
And you're coming from a couple different coaching jobs and positions. So, and I'm sure that those schools all had different cultures and, what we value. And like you said, you're talking about success where, at Bishop, you had a huge array of talent and athleticism to probably pull from. But at Red Lion, it's maybe not the same level. So how are you able to build that culture of, these are the steps that we need to take to be as successful as we can be? So what is it like in your locker room? What is the culture of your program?
Our culture in our locker room is kind of you first. Okay. We put the other person first. Couple different coaches that I know that are in our circle, we all stole the same thing from Greg Schiano. You see what works and you take it for yourself. We adopted Greg Schiano's message of family as an acronym. Forget about me, I love you. And we spend a lot of time talking about what that actually means. In the off season, we do book studies as different classes, and we focus on the selflessness aspect of what it means to be a teammate, what it means to be truly part of a family, to consider yourself part of a brotherhood. And so that message is drilled over and over and over again, not just by myself. And at this point in time, not just by my assistant coaches. I think we have a good culture here because you can see the players drilling that message to the new guy and to the younger players. So I'm really proud of how that culture has permeated all aspects of our team.
Now, you kind of touched on this a little bit, but truly, like, how integral are assistant coaches or coordinators to the overall success of a program? Like, you started out as an assistant. What are those coaches doing that makes your life just a little bit less stressful?
They have to have the knowledge base. But the other part of what makes a great assistant coach is the buy-in to the culture. We talked about that a little bit earlier. You need coaches who believe in what you believe. They have to have the same standards. They have to have the same morals and ethics you buy into as well, because that's going to make the work between the two groups, myself and my offensive coordinator, myself and my defensive coordinator, myself and my defensive line coach, we're all speaking the same language. We all treat kids the same way. There's no one on my staff that demeans players. If you're going to holler at somebody, which absolutely needs to happen sometimes, then I don't even need to say anything to them. They know before they walk off the field, they're going to grab that young person and they're going to explain exactly what happened, talk about exactly how they can fix it, and re-emphasize before they leave that field that they love that young man, they care about them, and they're doing this because they love them and care about them. And at this point, 8 years in with essentially the same staff all 8 years, it's not even a conversation between myself and them. We're all on the same page. They just know. That's a huge weight off of my shoulders as the head coach, because I know my student athletes, because I know our student athletes are being cared for and being coached by people that don't just see them as a position, but see them as a person.
And like many high schools, Red Lion's no exception. You guys were pretty much halted in the summer. You couldn't really do much. So, during the middle of this pandemic, what have been a few things that you and your coaching staff have done to help engage your players when you couldn't go to the weight room or you weren't able to be in a group?
I think a lot of high schools that if you asked that, we would all have a lot of the same answers. We had individual position meetings. We would have team meetings. We would go ahead and try to meet over Zoom as much as possible, try to keep tabs on them as much as we were able. But the weight room you bring up, we were very fortunate. Our school has a contract with a local sports fitness company called S3. S3 took care of, making sure our guys had the correct apps. We used a specific weight room service that our kids were able to access through their apps that kind of changed their system and adapted it so that student athletes could do the workouts at home without necessarily the same workout equipment they would have access to in the weight room. We had a pretty good year this year, and I think a large part of that is the fact that our guys were still able to continue to work out on their own. which during this time, we really hammered home that idea of family, the idea that you needed to do the work when no one was watching you because you owed it to the guy you were in line up next to.
And talking a little more specifically about your players and your student athletes, you and I both know that it's really important for players not only to be good in one position, but also be adaptable and learn multiple positions on both sides of the football. So, why do you think that's something that high school players and even middle school players should be learning and should be open to?
I think they ought to be open to it because it teaches them the game. As you referenced, Emily, going from a position coach to a head coach. Well, when you're a position coach, I knew linebacker inside and out because that's all I focused on. That's all I did. But then I became a coordinator and my scope of knowledge had to broaden. Well, what I found was that my knowledge of the game improved as well. And then again, becoming a head coach, now all of a sudden I'm looking more at the offensive side of the ball, which I had never done. Again, it helped my knowledge. It expanded my horizon in terms of understanding the game. Okay, this is why they're doing this. They're trying to do this, this, and this. As a player, you can learn the different aspects of the game by playing those different positions as well, which is going to help you on both sides of the ball.
And another really important tip for, helping to learn different aspects of the game or different side of the ball is watching film. So how important do you think is watching film for high school players, and what aspects of the game are you asking your players to really focus on when they're watching the film?
So film is invaluable. It is something that kids have to be taught how to do because a lot of them, when you tell them to watch film, they're just going to watch the film and look at it like they're watching a football game. And that's so not the point. So what we try to focus on when we talk to our kids is focus every play on the person that you are going against. Whether you're a defensive lineman, look at your offensive lineman. How does he set? How does he move? When you're going to pass set this guy, what moves does this defensive lineman like to use? What are his go-to moves? Quarterbacks, take a look at the D-backs. Does a cornerback open up his hips way too quick that's going to give us, a comeback? But it's focusing on who you're actually going to go against so you can win those one-on-one matchups against them.
Now, Redline is going to be hosting our first regional combine this year.
Mhm.
So, can you talk a little bit about what participants are going to be expected to do that day?
Yeah, they're going to be put through the paces by knowledgeable coaches that have been doing this at a high level for a very long time. And they'll be put through some individual drills. They'll be put through drills that the college coaches are going to be able to see how they move and see how they react, take a look and see how loose are their hips or how tight are their hips. So they're going to be put through the paces, again, by coaches that know what they're doing. But the biggest thing is make sure they're 100%. The coaches that are going to be putting them through this, our job isn't to tire them out. When they come in and they're going to do a rep, if I've got the linebackers, we're going to talk about, hey, look, make sure every rep you feel 100% ready to go because that rep might be the rep that one of those college coaches that you're interested in is watching you go. So we're going to give you every opportunity to showcase exactly what you can do on the football field.
And I know a lot of you guys will probably be in attendance, but for people who are watching who are kind of on the fence, well, I don't know if I should go, maybe I'll wait. What is one of the benefits to attending these combines? And talk a little bit about how they can affect your recruitment process.
Biggest problems we have had over this last year, the graduating seniors, unfortunately for them, they found out about it firsthand, is the fact that there are still a lot of colleges that are not letting prospects, recruits, come to the campus to be at their camps to showcase themselves. The combines, like the one we're having at Redline, are an opportunity to get yourself out there. We've had young men that I've been told point blank, Coach, if it was any other year, we'd be offering him, but we can't see him with our own eyes. And I think that's the part that I think high school players need to understand, that sometimes coaches, especially at the college level, tend not to trust film certainly as much as they trust their own eyes. And so they want to see that athlete for themselves. And if we can't go to the college campuses, this is the next best thing. This is a chance to get seen by those coaches.
And to conclude our interview here, we like to end on an inspirational note. So, can you share maybe one piece of advice for any junior high or high school athlete who may be watching?
Have fun. This game, it's not like basketball. It's not like baseball. There's no Twilight League for 35-year-old men who want to play football. At some point, your career comes to an end, and it's the greatest game in the world. When my coaches told me, I just kind of pushed it off, push it off, push it off. There's going to come that game that you're going to take off that helmet. You're going to unstrap those shoulder pads, and you're going to realize I'm never going to put on a helmet again. And make sure on that day you look back and you have no regrets. Have fun playing this game.
Well, I'd like to thank you for speaking with me today and sharing your experience with coaching and the programs that you've been a part of. So I think our viewers will really appreciate hearing from your point of view and can hopefully take something, helpful away from this talk. So thanks again, and I really appreciate your time.
You're very welcome, Emily. Happy to be here. Hopefully, you guys got something out of it.